very close together. It's extremely uncomfortable socially, and so if we seem stilted or if we don't seem articulate, it's not because we aren't, it's because we're extremely weirded out by the scenery. I'll give you a quick, so Maine, you know, I think the question is, well, why did we start this thing? The three of us had worked very hard to become senior people at Crispin, Porter+Bogusky. We were there during the ascension of the agency into a very well-regarded agency, and we made a lot of the work that helped to earn that reputation. And you know, we finally had reached a position where we were generously compensated. I know Scott probably had a sable coat he would wear around, but we had worked very hard and we were making a lot of money, and we were still getting great opportunities. And so you would think that that was the time to keep it neutral and post for the rest of your career and just collect a big check. And the three of us are idiots, because rather than pursuing that very lucrative direction, we decided to start sort of a model-breaking advertising agency called Maine. And a little bit where the impetus from was, being in advertising, and particularly being in the United States, we went through some very hard economic times here, and a lot of it was attributable to the lack of manufacturing in the United States. You know, we didn't make anything here, and so no one was getting paid to make things and then go ahead and spend that money on other things. And we really felt like part of the problem, like I say, being in a service sector, hired gun type of a job like advertising, you really would hear those things and feel like you were part of the problem. And we would often lament that, and we would work together on projects. And then we had this epiphany. One day we realized, well, we don't have to be the people that make things. What if we just use our expertise to help the people that make things? And it was a way to contribute. We didn't have this melodramatic feeling of, hey, we're going to save America, but we realized that we would get the things that we did every day and the things that we had become good at. And at the end of the day, you could say, well, it was in service of companies that could create more jobs in America. And so we did virtually no research on whether there were enough American-made products in business, but it seemed like we could have together, and we held hands, we jumped off the world's precipitous financial cliff. No longer do any of us have premium cable. I know John's a big deal fan who doesn't really get to watch Boardwalk Empire anymore. But it was, we launched about a year and 6 months ago from a coffee shop. We had no financial backing, we had no clients. Again, I'm stressing the part where we're not very smart. But we launched in a coffee shop. Scott would bring in a power strip so that we could use the same table, and that was the office. And I remember we took our first call from a prospective client, and they said, hey, let's meet down at your office. Yeah, let's meet at a coffee shop. It'll be cool, and because that was the office. And we're very humbled by the amount of things that we got. We've done virtually no outreach since we launched, because we've had the good fortune of having people call us, and I think a lot of that is attributable to the mission more so than it is necessarily to us being great guys. We moved to our first space not long after, and then we outgrew that. We are now talking to you live from an abandoned marijuana dispensary with this our temporary office. We think there might be molecules in here that aid the creative process, but we're not sure. And we're moving into new headquarters at the end of this month, and now we're about 35, 40 people, and we have a few national accounts, and it's an exciting time for us.
Does anyone have a question? Obviously, coming to hear from these guys. We start off, New Zealand audiences typically don't, but if anyone does, going to pass you the mic. Any questions?
Yeah, the question I was going to ask, right, you guys were in a very successful advertising agency in the States, selling stuff. And your ambition now, is it to create another very successful advertising agency in the States, selling stuff? Or is it a completely different thing about creating jobs, as you kind of said before, that you wanted to kind of help companies to grow and create jobs? So was just wondering if you explained your purpose as a company, what would be your core purpose?
Is the question about, what is the mission and how does that relate to advertising, what we're doing? Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So, yeah. So if you look at the real, the sort of meta version of our mission, it is not that all things on Earth should be created in the United States and exported to the rest of the planet. That is not what we're suggesting. It's a global economy, and that's a good thing. But if you look at what has happened in the U.S., manufacturing has been hollowed out to the point where we don't make anything. And the real mission that we have is it's just better when things are made closer to where they're consumed for a number of reasons. Starting with jobs are created, so you have job creation, but you also have a reduced carbon footprint. You have normally environmental regulations that are being followed, so things aren't getting dumped into rivers, and all of those things are important to us, but we tick all of those boxes. Even fair labor practices. You have people in China hurling themselves off the roof of Foxconn where iPhones are made because it's just an untenable thing to work there. We believe that American workers have a better situation, and I'm sure workers in New Zealand have a better situation. So it's all about improving things locally by manufacturing locally and supporting that. And really, in a global economy, buying American is buying local for Americans. But you could you could envision a made New Zealand where you have advertising and marketing that happens in New Zealand to support products that create jobs in New Zealand. And one thing I'll say is, you have a question, well, does that mean it's you guys make Go America advertising? So does that mean that America is going to make its way into all the advertising executions and campaigns that you do? Absolutely not. We haven't created a single campaign where we've pulled the Made in USA aspect forward. So a good way to think of it is Made in USA for us is the mission, not the message. And it really informs who we work with. It's almost, you can look at it as a new business filter. So when we decide to work with someone, we ask ourselves, is this a company that's actually making jobs in the United States, more so than a typical business? And I'll give you a few examples. If Toyota came to us and said, would you work on the Toyota Tundra pickup truck? We would say yes, because it's built in Indiana. And all of the jobs created by that are what we want to support, because we know those jobs make more jobs. If someone came to us with a food product and said, would you work on that? Because that's not typically a manufactured hard good. We would say yes, because agriculture is the second biggest job maker behind manufacturing. But if somebody came to us with a product that was merely a service, there's nothing wrong with advertising it, but it doesn't fit our mission, so we might have to say no. We've also candidly had to say, I like how I say candidly, our head is like wide and deep broadcast in the other hemisphere. But we've had to say no to companies like Adidas and BMW motorcycles. And when that happens, you wonder if you just launched the dumbest business model ever created. But in the end, we stick to our guns, and it's really about making work that will support jobs in the U.S. economy.
Yeah, I just have a question about Made Collection website. How do you select the products for that? Are they all clients? Is it open to all comers? Is there an editorial panel there selecting the products? How does that work?
Yes. How do we select products? We can talk, Scott can talk about this as well because he's heavily involved. But the idea is to curate, to have a point of view. When we went and looked at there were sites before we launched that aggregated Made in USA products, but it was a train wreck. Like you would go there and they would have corrugated fence tubing and these plastic tennis ball throwers for your dog, and really bad merchandise. And your takeaway was like, maybe Made USA is not for me. I may not be. I don't want this. So first and foremost, we look for things that were fashion forward, progressive, well-made products, and that's how we really, the key is curation. is in terms of how American the stuff is. We wanted to be inclusive, not exclusive, and acknowledge the fact that these are products that are produced in a global economy. So we might have a suit that is cut and sewn in the United States, but it's fabric from Italy, for instance. Those kind of things are common. I mean, we also have things that are entirely American. We have a baseball that's made from leather from the oldest tannery in the country in Chicago, and then it's sewn together in a different location. But we have many products that don't contain 100% exclusive American components or fabrics. It's just that some part of the production process is happening here. Did you have
One of the things with Made Collective, we've been very sensitive to price point. And the trend over the last couple of years that Made in America has become a little bit more of a luxury item. So you see Made in America jeans for $200, $250, and we didn't want it to become that. We wanted it to be accessible to everyone. It places a pretty strong on making sure that we get a broad range of price points.
Guys, one question. You have worked with some large agencies in the past and done some great work for big clients. And there's a feeling, I think, for some people that you have to almost scrub yourself down after a day at work for you work with Burger King and Pepsi, that kind of thing. Do you feel, do you feel as though you are using a more socially responsible form of advertising now? You're using your powers for good rather than evil?
I want to get to, I need to hear that question repeated, but before I answer that, I just need to point out somehow, even though it's not available at all in the United States, I've ended up with this nothing else water. And I got to tell you, it's among the most satisfying drinks of water I've personally ever taken. What do you think, John? Is yours as good as mine? It's a transformative experience, so nothing else water, folks. Now, sorry, what was the question?
So the question is, you've worked for big companies in the past and used your skills to sell more burgers and soft drink. Do you feel as though now you're using your skills in a more socially responsible way? And have you learned anything, put those skills to good use to fight almost against the machine?
So what you're saying is like we spent most of our careers making evil people rich. Is this a form of penance that we're now doing?
Exactly,
yes. That are good for the earth. Thank you. Yes, we're vulnerable. This is what you do. You attack us. Actually, no. There's a lot of truth to that. I got to tell you. You ask yourself, and many people in the room there, I'm sure, have had the same experience. What happens when you're working as hard as you can every day and you realize that some of the people who benefit you might not be the best people in the world. And I'm going to tell you an anecdote about that Coke work you saw, and I'll probably be killed by a Coke death squad after this. But when we made those commercials, we had hidden cameras, and a lot of those were in-house attorneys at Coke. And most of them would say, well, you guys are stupid because you're suing your own company. But we had more than say, well, hell, we can draft a threatening letter in a matter of hours. And we're looking at each other like we're hidden behind the two-way glass. We actually had one attorney say, well, if you sue them as individuals outside of the company because you feel it was done maliciously, that would be a great way to attack them. And so they were, at that moment, you step back and go, what am I doing with my life? And so yes, working on products that don't necessarily make the world a better place is sometimes a difficult thing. What we've done is filter our clients, and sometimes it's based on their philosophy socially. Sometimes it's based on whether they're creating jobs, but it's always based on something that we consider good. And so it is when you roll out of bed in the morning and you're shaving and you see yourself in the mirror, it's not quite so hard to make eye contact these days.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Awesome. Hey, we all know the reason people outsource is for more profit, and I'm wondering if smaller budgets are the result, advertising budgets that is from your clients are the result of being made in America, and how you cope with that and how you keep your prices, your product prices down, regardless.
Yeah, that's a good question. I got to tell you, many of us work we were working at Crispin before it was giant. So when I started at Crispin, we were 100 people and we didn't have TV budgets, we didn't have big brands, and so we worked on scrappy calendar brands that had to rely on non-traditional tactics to compete with the companies that could spend so much on traditional media. And then of course, as the company grew, that changed, and we were working on Microsoft and Coke and Volkswagen and all of these big brands. And now we're back to really our roots. And you know, when I was at Crispin, I would say this, and the money people hate me, but it was like, we do our best work, we have no money, because it forces you to be disruptive. It forces you to think in ways that you normally wouldn't think, and it also forces your brand partners, your clients, to buy work that's a little bit more crazy because they have to. So you can't be careful, you have to be provocative, you have to be disruptive, and so that's what we've done, and we've gone back to doing those kind of things. You know, we're not always going to have a budget, but what can we do digitally? Well, what can we do guerrilla-wise? So that's the way that we've dealt with our budget. Another thing that we've done, and I think the great thing is, we used to make these brand books. So when we launched Cooper Mini, we made these little brand books. And the brand book was like the soul of the company in a little, 30-page booklet. And that thing does so many things well. You can hand it to a consumer, you can hand it to an investor you're responsible with, you can hand it to a retailer that you're trying to get to carry your product. You can give it to your own people as a form of advertising to get them fired up. So making really efficient, great stuff, but thinking a lot of boxes is another way to be smart with a small budget. Oh my goodness, wait a second, before we talk further, just by chance, look who has dropped by. Look who has come by, ladies and gentlemen. The famous, world famous Alex Bogusky. I will say this about Alex. When we launched Maybe, we hoped that he would think it was a good idea. We never imagined that he actually would want to invest and become a partner. And we never imagined that he would move in this telecast by eating a banana and blocking us. But it's not blocking you. Say about your launching.
Dave told me, and when he was launching this, he's like, hey, I want to do this thing. It's a really dumb idea, but it's what I really want to do. That's what he said. And I said, it's not. The thing that you really want to do is always a smart idea. Because he has all these ideas that are simply savvy, I guess. You've got to do what you're passionate about. So that's, to me, that felt really right. So that's why I wanted to be involved. But this part, I didn't know was going to happen.
I gotta say, people think that it's a benefit to have Alex helping you out. This is the kind of shit that we deal with on a regular basis.
Dave said, when I get done, no one will ever remember you were in advertising.
I never said that, ever. I never said that.
So, I don't know, I'm hopeful. He said no one in New Zealand has ever heard of you, will have ever heard of you. So, but nice to meet everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Bogusky. Sounds like there was some applause. Oh, no, back.
Hi, an American here in the audience in Auckland, actually formerly from Boulder back in the day. Missed the Flatirons there that you guys get to live with. Question for you about the size of the campaigns that you're doing in terms of dollars. Just, a range or, where is the sweet spot of size, and how much digital media are you doing and in what kinds of possibly interesting ways? Social media.
It's hard. I mean, I think it's one of those things you have to look at case by case. It's really hard to just identify my budget for a given client. But one thing that you can do is try to offer. This is what we think the sweet spot is as a business model, creatively. If you look at, no secret that the agency-preferred relationship is starting to disappear more and more. That's, small brands can't afford it. Big brands are so squeezed with budgets that they're starting to avoid it and do things on a project basis. And so what we did when we launched the company, and we call it recession-dated, is if you look at it from the client's perspective, they don't know what their marketing budget is going to be from month to month, let alone for the whole year. And they don't know the nature of what their needs will be. Well, they need digital, well, they need social, well, they need traditional. So when they get locked into a cumbersome arrangement where they have to pay a certain amount each month to an organization that can only do one thing well, that's terrible. A better thing for them is if they can, almost on an a la carte basis, pick and choose and you're good at everything. If you have digital capabilities, if you have traditional capabilities, if you have strategists, then they can use you however they need to use you. They can adjust on the fly what they're doing each month. Of course, the challenge is how you hire and staff up against that. It's challenging, but I think it's great to, in a small package, offer a really big spectrum of capabilities that you can adjust as your clients need to go.
Hi, you guys are obviously growing in size at the moment. I was just wondering if there is a size of the business that you want to get to and stop, or whether you think that your mission can be protected even if you have 3 offices and a couple of hundred people.
Well, we've thought about, we think we would want to stop growing at about 46,000. And that would be the deal, because we'd be rich and we could stop caring. But no, that's a great question. We've actually thought, and I know a lot of agencies have thought, when do you start to suck? Like, what's the size where it's really hard to make great work? And we were thinking about that. We were actually talking with Alex about it, and for some reason we arbitrarily arrived at 100. Maybe 100 people is a size, and maybe $10 million accounts is the perfect mix of clients. So if I was just going to pick magically how big we would be and what we would be working on, it would be that. So I don't know. In terms of our own growth, we are surprised to still be in business. So we haven't thought ahead to how big we want to get, but things have been going well. One way we thought about scaling, though, just an interesting thought, is based on what we said earlier, our mission of it's better when things are consumed closer to where they're manufactured. So we thought in places like the UK or Brazil or other countries where manufacturing has suffered to the detriment of the economy and the people that live there, there's a place for a made UK or a made. So anybody that wants to start up a made New Zealand, we should talk. And that guy from Boulder, that guy's a turncoat. We want real Kiwi. All right? I would like that to be ejected from the thing, because security can descend on him and have him ejected. Even though he asked a great question, he's a smart guy, we didn't want him out of there.
And he misses the fire.
Hey, guys, one thing that is happening, niche, but it's happening, is 3D printing. And there's a great quote from a management guru in the States that people don't want choice, they want what they want. And do you think that the next industrial revolution, as they're calling it, will be of benefit to smaller companies that you deal with?
Yeah, that's a good question. We actually have a 3D printer in the office, and we've been talking to MakerBot a little bit about potentially working on their stuff. But that feels like an incredible opportunity. When you look at the democratization of marketing, and you look at all the tools that we have digitally, that's one thing. But when you look at the democratization of manufacturing, that's like a whole other level. And I'm not sure where that goes, but I love thinking about how to bolt marketing onto that and how to help, that and fuel that and be a part of that. Thoughts on?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see hardware start to balancing across software. But there's not some of the same things. Software and the innovation that has enabled people to purchase the same things with digital printing and hardware.
Yeah, sadly, the most topical thing about 3D printing in America is everyone's trying to figure out how to make a salt rifle with it. So that's like the kind of shit that I deal with over here.
What's your policy on employing people? Do you feel like you should employ Americans, or would you employ anyone that would help you achieve your goal?
We are employing everyone. We actually have a Saudi designer, we have a Filipina art director, so the employees themselves don't have to be made in America. Although it's a bonus, but like if your parents had sex in America but then moved to Micronesia, and I think you're still American made, we could hire you. No, it's not the people. The people can be from anywhere, and that, in fact, we love that. The more diversity that we can have, the better.
Sorry guys, they can't get enough of you. We've got a couple more questions.
Hi there. I have like a double question, but we're running out of time, so I'll just make one. After a year and a half or a couple of years in business, do you think you are creating the change you expected? Do you think it's like a shift in the market, or are you just providing channels and opportunity for an existing pool of companies to an existing pool of buyers?
I would say it would be hard to attribute change in the marketplace to us, although I'm happy to take the credit. But what we are seeing, I can tell you, and it's so meaningful. So we were thinking about, should we start having award shows, right? And then we realized, you know what, we're not going to do award shows, because to us, our awards are work with have the success to the point where they have to hire new people. So we're in the process of getting headshots, photographs of all the people that have been hired at the companies that we started working with because we helped them succeed. And that's where we see a real difference. We have a tiny client, one of our first clients, they're in Longmont, which is just up the road from us. They have 600 people. They had to hire like another 40 people, and all those people have jobs a little bit because of us. And I can't tell you what a humbling, amazing, satisfying thing it is. So all we do is we try to make a difference through the current business that we have, and we try to keep the conversation going, and we don't get grandiose with having the big picture.
Well, but I do think that the tide is starting to turn. If you look at things, I don't know if you guys are aware in New Zealand of Motorola launched the Moto X phone, which is the first smartphone that's actually made in the U.S., which took a significant investment on their part. Obviously there are other people out there who are coming to the same conclusion that we arrived at, and finding it possible to make things very, which is cool.
One of the interesting things in our business, I guess, or in advertising, is we're obsessed with ideas. We're always looking for ideas. Usually we're looking for ideas for clients. But it seems like the company that you've set is an idea in itself. And so if you're looking at long-term success, and you were talking about, in 10 years' time, success would be you didn't need to have a made movement anymore. So really you've launched an idea, and the people that come with you, the big idea really, I guess, is your company. And it's just an interesting kind of thing I was just thinking about. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, we've seen, we can only look at success through what we've experienced firsthand. And I can tell you that it's done a number of things for us. The first thing was it attracted clients to us. So clients wanted to talk to us because they realized that we cared about the things they cared about. Even clients that aren't really focused on made in USA, for instance, 7th Generation, they're more focused on getting chemicals out of household products. But because we had a vision, they felt like we were a better fit culture. So the first way is we're to attract clients. The second way is attracting talent. We've had people come here from Martin, Kennedy, Carmichael Lynch, Crispin. They come here for less money because they really care about what we're doing. And that's a really powerful thing, because you unleash that passion in the service of all the brands we work on. We have people sleeping on each other's couches and sharing cars just so they can be here, and I can't tell you how awesome that is. So you're not only attracting fantastic talent, and then last but not least, hopefully you're making really great work for clients that help make change. And so, by empowering these American-made companies, and these companies with social missions, we're basically pouring gas on what they do and helping to fuel further good. That's the way that I think we've been successful. It's going to be a long time before we're not needed. If you know anything about the state of American manufacturing, we make no textiles here, we make no furniture here, we make an entire category where we make nothing.
Okay, I think we're going to wind this up now. It's Dave Brown here, and I just wanted to say one huge thank you to the three of you. One thing I will say is the fact you've even come on this stream to talk to the furthest country away on the globe says a lot about what you guys are prepared to do, and we really, really appreciate it. I also want to thank you for drinking that water. The last thing Boulder needs is more water, but we wanted to say thank you very much once again. And I think we personally have, as a university, a vested interest in where your company will go, and we wish you all the very best, and hopefully we can stay in touch. And maybe we can all share the same kind of stories that you guys are promoting through your work. Cheers.
Well, we're very thankful for the opportunity. I got to tell you, you said some nice things about America, but after this whole fiscal impasse, I'm a little embarrassed to be sitting in front of this flag. And thank you for accepting the call. We thought you might not even accept the call. But one thing that and I'm not sucking up to you guys, and I'm capable of sucking up. Don't get me wrong, but this isn't one of those times. New Zealand has a reputation for great creative and having incredible creative to work there, and obviously great account people and just great marketing in general. So it's a privilege to talk to you guys, and it would be really fun to share ideas moving forward and have a relationship, and so thanks for having us.
One last thing, thank you, John, Dave, and Scott, and that other guy whose name I can't remember, Banana Man. Cheers, we'll stay in touch. Thank you very much.
Yeah.